And I would like to thank all of you personally for joining today. We appreciate your time. We know it's valuable, and we look forward to having you on this webinar here. Quick introduction. I am your account manager. If you're on this call, it is because you are in the region that I cover. If you have any technical questions or account questions, you just don't know who to ask a question to or anything, I'm the guy to go to, and I'll help loop in different people who can help us. A little bit of background for me. I've had the chance to meet with several of you over Teams calls or in person on-site visits. We'd love to do more on-site visits. We want to try doing it about once a month. So if you guys are ever interested in meeting in person, definitely reach out. I'll be reaching out as well, trying to meet everyone. But yeah, I've been here for about 2 years, and I have a lot of respect for what Ivanti's doing here, and grateful that you guys choose to use our solutions. And hopefully today we can get a little bit more information in here for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So just like Larry said, my name is Bryan Hadzik. I'm with NCSI, so we're an Ivanti reseller. Ivanti deals with resellers like us that kind of understand the product and help implement it and so forth. So we've been doing it for come up on 20 years here now, and we've got a big deployment team of people that help implement this. And so we appreciate Shane and Ivanti inviting us here to help talk about some of the technologies today. So please use that question and answer part that you see over on the side to ask them some questions. We'll try and answer them kind of here at the end. I do have one question though. This one's for Larry. Larry, I looked through my email. I didn't see an email for me to get lunch. Did you get one, Shane?
No, that was totally done on purpose.
Where's my food?
I've seen you eat on camera. It's not pretty.
All right, so I guess everyone else gets to enjoy lunch. We really like this because, it's kind of a replacement of the lunch and learns or taking people out to lunch. So I really like this format. But yeah, Larry doesn't like to see me eat on camera. We did kind of a funny video around risk sense. So you've heard of like the Hot Wings Challenge, where they get on and interview celebrities while they're eating really spicier and spicier wings. We did that same kind of thing with risk sense. We can send you the video of it. So that's what he's saying.
You did do well, though. You actually managed to present the product and sweat it out.
I appreciate that.
It looked pretty brutal.
It was. I was sweating
tears
bullets.
And everything.
Yeah, I was crying a little bit. I will admit to that. So. Again, thanks for joining. And I'm, from the technical side, I'm all about making sure you're getting value out of the product that you have today. You've invested a lot, you spent a lot of money on this, you spent a lot of time on these products. My goal is to make sure that we maximize that value, that you understand, we're just getting that much more out of it. So please hit me up if you have any questions about, what does the product look like? What else can it do? A lot of organizations, they inherited it from somewhere. We've gone through a lot of acquisitions. Avanti's bought a lot of companies. So, maybe you came from the Pulse Secure line of products, or from Sharewell, or from Heat, or Landesk, or, the AppSense, Res, lots of different avenues. Shavlik. We can keep going.
Yeah.
So you probably came from maybe a very different source. We just want to make sure that you understand kind of how it fits into the ecosystem, where it plugs into, and make sure that we're maximizing the value that you're getting out of that. So
one thing I think that's important to understand is kind of like why Ivanti does this. I mean, that's a lot of companies to just get kind of slapped together. I mean, if you look at it, that's a lot of acquisitions.
Yeah.
Something that's really important to understand is Ivanti. I mean, it goes back to the 1980s. They worked on remote desktop control software, and we have a lot of the patents that technology is based off of.
Yeah.
Ivanti has been innovators. They saw the landscape that the challenges were back in the 1980s, and they have continued to expand that to, we just got through COVID. I don't know if we're in it or out of it. I don't know what term we would use.
Yeah, who knows?
Hopefully we're done. That's in the past, but we're here to innovate. All these acquisitions are strategic. It builds a great portfolio, and looking forward to Bryan helping us talk to all of those different products and seeing how they can help with today's landscape that we see.
Yeah, and that's what today's goal is, to paint that vision so you can understand the big picture of where Ivanti's going. And so sometimes it can be a little confusing, and there's a lot of products and a lot of different places. I want to paint that picture for you that demonstrates a little bit more about how all the things kind of plug in together, how they interoperate with each other, and how you can see that kind of big vision of what Ivanti's trying to do. So why don't we head over to the news desk and walk through this? Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
All right. Okay, so introductions, we've already kind of met Shane. Here's his contact information. Also on the team, we have Ashley Carpenter. She's on the NCSI side, on the sales side. She's going to help out for things, kind of a counterpart to Shane. And then myself, I'm on the technical side here at NCSI, but we also have a whole pile of people behind the scenes from a post-sales implementation perspective and pre-sales and things like that. So I'm just the tip of the spear here to help educate you on what's going on, but we've got a whole pile of other people that can help out as well. So today we're going to be talking about a lot of different stuff, but you're going to hear a common theme. And that theme is neurons. So what on earth is neurons? What does that mean? You go to the Ivanti website and you're going to see it splashed all over. You may even see in your product that you log in today. You may log into it tomorrow and it may say the word neurons on it. What does that mean? So I apologize that it's a little bit confusing. That is, when you use that brand name quite a lot, it's going to be maybe confusing on exactly what that entails. So what you're going to see here is that you can see kind of up at the top here, it's always going to be Ivanti Neurons for something. Neurons is not a standalone product that kind of lives on its own. It's really a brand that means, it's our next generation of product that operates up in the cloud. So you're going to see things like, neurons for discovery, neurons for edge intelligence. Focus on that thing that says after for, neurons for something. That's what the product is actually going to be.
Yeah,
so.
And I think something really important, keep it simple. Yes, it's a brand name, but it's that next generation. It's where the future is. It's where the innovation is. The neurons piece just means it's in the cloud.
Yeah.
Like you said, perfectly said there.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you can see here, we've got 4 major categories. That's discover, that's manage, secure, and service. And so those are the 4 categories of various components that we're going to be talking about today. And you see we've kind of broken them out there into those 4 categories and the products that kind of live inside of that. But you know what? I feel that just kind of a listing of these products, it's just too hard to understand exactly what's going on. So I like to draw up a little bit on what maybe kind of all these things kind of plug in together. So let's jump over to the whiteboard here really quick. I want to draw up what I see a lot of organizations have today, and then how we're going to help try and unify a lot of that. So when I talk to my customers, they tell me all the stuff that they have. We love stuff in technology, and we love buying stuff and implementing stuff. But then oftentimes those things kind of live on their own. They live in a little bit of a vacuum. A great example of that is when I ask a customer, I say, well, how many laptops do you have? And you'd be surprised how many times we get I think it's about 700, but it might be 900. It might be plus or minus 200 devices. I mean, that's a large amount, because we oftentimes have these soloed systems or siloed systems that everything kind of lives in that space. And then, our phones we manage over here, and our servers we manage over here, and our other devices we manage over there, and they're all kind of disparate from each other. So we get in a habit of buying those things. What kind of things? We got things like Active Directory. Active Directory, it's ubiquitous, everyone has it, right? And it is great at storing user information, but it's atrocious at storing system information. It can't even tell you the serial number or the make and model of a particular device. Or, maybe we have stuff like our own endpoint manager technology. EPM does inventory, remote control, pushing out software, patching. It's kind of our classic on-premise systems management tool. Or maybe you own Mobile Iron. Mobile Iron is has a new name, our Ivanti Neurons for MDM, a great cloud-based mobile device management platform. Or maybe you own Rapid7. Rapid7 has nothing to do with Ivanti. We don't own it. It's owned by another company. Does vulnerability scanning, but it produces information that lives in a silo, and we want to absorb that information and communicate with it. So we're going to do something with that. Or what about things like VMware? Maybe you're a VMware shop and all of my server information shows up inside of VMware. Or, let's keep going. I use Okta for single sign-on and has a lot of great information about my cloud applications that I have out there. Kind of the list keeps going and going and going. What are some other stuff? Maybe our Ivanti security controls, one of my favorites, the server patching, agentless patching. So I've got all these things. And they don't really kind of talk to each other as much as maybe we would want to. We want them to have this information conjoined a lot more. So that's where Ivanti Neurons is going to come into play. Ivanti neurons is going to absorb this information. We've got these really cool things called connectors that we're going to connect those various systems out here and absorb what information that they have. So some of them we own, Endpoint Manager, Mobile Iron, those are Ivanti products. Other ones are not. That's a Microsoft product. That's, from Rapid7, VMware owns this, Okta, etc. We still want to absorb and pick up that information and kind of bring it in together. Then what we're going to do is we're going to present it in a format called a data lake. So what is a data lake? Data lake is a place to store information that maybe I'm going to use, maybe I'm not. Think about it. When I run an EPM scan, I might pull down 50,000 attributes on a machine. Do I need all 50,000 attributes? Do I need to know the serial number on a stick of RAM in slot number 4? Well, that's interesting, but that may not be applicable in all cases. So we kind of park it in the data lake. And what we're going to do here is we're going to deduplicate it. Because if you think about it, a device look at a server. A server might show up in Active Directory, it might show up in VMware, and it might show up on our ISEC platform as well. We don't want it to show multiple copies of it, right? So we want to go and deduplicate it. And then we're also going to normalize it. So normalizing is the ability to scrub that data for consistency so that we don't have mismatches of IP address, and some it's zero filled, other times it's not zero filled, things like that. So we're going to scrub that data and clean it. And then from there, we can decide to go and send it off to somewhere. And usually what that ends up doing is part of our either CMDB or AMDB. So we have a CMDB, Configuration Management Database. That's part of our service management platform. But we also have an AMDB, an Asset Management Database, because CMDB, if you follow the official ITIL rules, you're going to find some holes in it. Like if the machine is not providing a service, it shouldn't be in the it shouldn't be in the CMDB. It should not be a CI. Well, what about a laptop I have in stock? It's not technically providing a service, so it's not supposed to be in the CMDB. So we actually combine these two things. In our universe, they're the exact same thing. They are not two separate systems. They're the same database. So we park it in one, and it can be used for change purposes or used for asset purposes. So that's kind of our idea. Let's scoop up and gather a bunch of information. Let's process it. Let's park it in the data lake. And then if you choose, eventually have it go up and land in our destination. It's our CMDB and AMDB. So that's how you can kind of see how all of it can plug together and connect. So hopefully that'll make a little bit more sense as we're going through the various options here. You can better understand how it might look kind of on your side. So let's jump into the first section here. We're going to talk about our Discover. And this is really, really critical. If you follow any kind of security controls, one of my favorites is the Center for Internet Security. They put out the critical security controls, the CSC. So it used to be 20, it's 18 now. And it's a good framework because it's not something incredibly cumbersome like NIST. You're not going to drown in paperwork with it. It's a lot easier. And so if you go take a look at it, just Google for critical security controls. It's not something Ivanti does. It's just a neutral third party. They say that 87% of breaches happen in the top 5 controls. And if you read through those top 5 controls, number 1, you need to find your hardware. Number 2, you need to find your software. If you can't find it, if you don't know that it's there, it's impossible to protect it, it's impossible to secure it. So finding our stuff, it sounds like a relatively trivial thing, but there's a lot going on there, and a big part of it is part of our discovery platform. So you can see our first item there is our Ivanti Neurons for Discovery. So that's actually the component that is going to find your devices. It's going to use all those connectors. We talked about connectors over at the whiteboard, how I'm scooping up that information. That way I'm pulling it from different data sources. It doesn't have to be just our stuff. It can be other people's stuff as well. So Ivanti Neurons Discovery is going to find devices, find all their data, and then go park it in that data lake that we talked about and scrub it and clean it up and have it ready to go.
One of the facts that I find interesting, so when I joined Ivanti, they talked about this discovering and how important you can't patch what you don't know about and all these different concepts. And one of the cool things about this tool is when it's taken into an environment, like we went to a very large corporation and we were able to find 30% more devices than they actually knew was on their network. And that's massive. I mean, when you have 100,000 something different nodes, dude, 30%, that's a lot. So
yeah, what does the CFO say about that? What do you mean you didn't know about 30% of our devices? That represents millions and millions of dollars worth of equipment. we didn't even know about. So sometimes customers think that this, oh, that's too basic. I want to jump into, fifth gear. No, you got to start with the basics. Finding your stuff is incredibly important, and so we want to make a big focus on that for sure. All right, next, Ivanti Neurons for Edge Intelligence. So Edge Intelligence is really cool. It gives me a much more accurate representation of my systems that I have out there today. So I found that laptop, great. I found the laptop, I found the desktop, I found the phone, whatever, it doesn't matter. Well, what about it? What kind of information can you tell me about that particular device? We've had in systems management, always had like this classic, well, here was the information from a week ago. Here's what software was installed on that computer and what was going on with it last time it checked in, this however many months ago. Edge Intelligence gives you real-time data. And when I say real-time, I am not joking. I mean, you click on it, and it makes an active query against that device. We use an IoT protocol called MQTT that makes it so that you can query thousands of devices, at once, and it's not going to impact your network. You're not going to have this huge, overhead of traffic. It really is a great tool to say what's going on with my machines right now. This was really popular when COVID started because, I've got organizations that, oh, geez, I had one medical company that said never in a million years will we send our devices home. Sure enough, they were packing up their desktops and putting them in people's cars and driving them home, right? Well, where did all that go? All that spending, all that infrastructure, where is it? So it even shows it up on a map and can tell you down to, if it's GPS chips enabled, down to the street. Here's the house that laptop is currently at. So it gives you great insight into those devices. And then next we have our neurons for healing. And healing is a really interesting thing because it takes it to a level that most customers are not even necessarily thinking about or ready for today. We always hear the same story. Well, we got a bunch of fires to put out. I'm trying to put out fires. And that's true. And we have that problem. You're not alone when you say that to us. We've heard that over and over and over again. One goal that, if you ever follow things like Gartner, so we're usually in the Gartner Magic Quadrant and, usually in the Leaders Quadrant. We have a pretty good track record with that. But go pay attention to the actual text that they put. Don't just look at the graphic. Read what it says around kind of the innovation and the future of unified endpoint management. What healing is trying to do is solve problems before they come up. Now, that may sound like this crazy utopian vision that, oh, it's AI-powered this and, talk to my Alexa that. No. Don't get that far. Let's talk about the basics. How many times do you have a help desk technician that 15 minutes into a troubleshooting call realized the computer's out of disk space? Something simple like that. Nothing crazy and over the top. It's like, oh, well, we don't monitor disk space on our workstations, or the service was not starting, or they've got a bad IP address, or their latency was bad. What healing can do is actually wake up and do something to correct those problems before they call us. They run out of disk space. We're going to have a healing action kick in to free up disk space. Their hard drive is going bad. Let's submit a ticket to get their hard drive replaced. They can't print. Let's go check to see if their print spooler is not running, and it's not running. Let's go start it up. So a great way to proactively fix these problems. Again, you are not going to fix 100% of your problems. Do not fire your help desk staff. We're going to try and shave off, 10%, 20%, 30%. There's usually some percentage of things that can be automated. Those are the ones that we want to kind of peel off. So that's our neurons for healing. Lastly, Ivanti Neurons Workspace, a great way for your technicians to help troubleshoot. Again, I'm a help desk tech. I just got a phone call. The user can't print. What do I do? What are my tools that I use to troubleshoot? Shane mentioned earlier, we invented remote control. And that's not an exaggeration. We have that patent. We invented remote control. And we have remote control. Great, but that shouldn't be our first tool. Our workspace can give our technician a way to say, what's going on with this machine? What's its IP address? What is its latency? How's it configured? Even things like our digital experience score. I really love this because we need to focus on our user experiences a lot more. You've probably heard this trend. We're the department of no. We're the people that say, no, you can't install that software. No, you can't go to that website. No, you can't do this. Users are sometimes a little frustrated with us. Now, we know why. It's security and compliance and things like that, but they don't care about that. All they care about is that you said no. So if you ask your average user, I don't think they always necessarily have a great feedback for IT on how we interact with them. So we have something called the DEX, the Digital Experience Score, that's going to gather all this kinds of information. Blue screen messages, error messages that you're getting, how long it's taken for you to log in, what your internet latency. let's try and summarize all that up into a single number so that we can say, this user's probably having a good time, that user's probably gonna have a bad time. What if we could call up that user that's having a bad time, bad latency, slow performance, etc., proactively fix their problem? They didn't even call us. We called them. They'd fall out of their chair. That's the kind of thing we're trying to start to innovate on. So customers aren't even thinking about that yet. We've got to start thinking about what are we doing next to improve that digital experience for our users. All right, so that's the Discover section. Let's go talk about Manage. So first of all, we have our Ivanti Neurons for Unified Endpoint Management. I talked about it a little bit. Our EPM product. This came from the Landisk family of products. Been around for for quite a long time. I was actually a deployment engineer for this product for many, many years, so it's kind of near and dear to my heart. So if you've got devices, usually workstations is kind of its big fit, laptops, desktops, etc. You need them inventoried, remote control, patched, software pushed out to them, imaged, all that kind of stuff. That's what that product is. Next over, we have our Ivanti Neurons for Edge Intelligence. We kind of already talked about that a little bit. That real-time inventory information. Is the service running right now? Is there latency high? Kind of things like that. These next two are really interesting, but they're a little bit more focused on a couple of different industries. First of all, Neurons for Healthcare. If we've got any healthcare customers on the phone here, this is really cool. It gives you the ability to understand medical-related devices. It can do some absolutely crazy stuff. It can tell us, hey, there is a glucose monitor plugged into that port over there, and it's running an old version of the firmware that's vulnerable, and it could be a problem. You've got to go and patch it, things like that. So, very specific, focused on healthcare. If you're not in healthcare, it's probably not going to be applicable, but some really cool technology we have in there. And then, our Ivanti Neurons, part of our Wavelink family of products that focuses a lot on things in like warehousing. If you've ever received a UPS package, you've interacted with Ivanti because they've got software on every single UPS driver as part of our Wavelink family of products. So that's what's the Ivanti Neurons for IoT. Next, let's jump into Secure. So first of all, we have our Ivanti Neurons for Secure Access. So what this gives us is a great ability to have our users, wherever they are, securely connected to our equipment. So this comes from our Pulse Secure line of products, and that's the division you came from, right?
Yeah, that is. One thing that's interesting, I mean, we've got Mobile Iron, Ivanti, Sharewell, Mobile Iron. Interesting trend I saw is a lot of customers own the same different products. So it speaks a lot to the different quality products that have been brought in. Yeah,
absolutely. So Pulse Secure, a classic VPN style product, so great for giving remote access, but it kind of plays into the next one over there that you see, our Ivanti Neurons for Zero Trust Access. We're getting to the point where it's just such a mess out there. Are they using a personal device? Are they using a corporate device? It's not in the office. I don't have the firewall here to protect me. So maybe I want to give them zero trust access, where they only have access to the things that they're specifically defined to. I just had a customer just the other day that had a person that was part-time. They were on a company laptop, but they logged in so very rarely. What do you think happened the last time they logged in? They brought in ransomware into the organization because that laptop was on so rarely they could not make sure it was patched and up to date, and that led to a huge ransomware attack. If they had the zero trust in there, it would have not happened because they wouldn't have had access to the file servers and the things that they didn't need for their job, but it was exposed and the ransomware hit them. So zero trust will make it so I don't care if you're logging in from an infected laptop. That's okay. I'll just simply give you the access to the systems that you're allowed to. Next, Ivanti Neurons for patch management. So patch management is a really fascinating one. Most people don't know, but Ivanti is a huge patching organization. I think we're the second largest, really only behind Microsoft. We do patching for the native applications like Microsoft and Mac and Linux, but also third parties. Think your Chromes, your Firefox, your Javas, things like that. We provide great patching content for that. As a matter of fact, we OEM this technology. I bet if you look under the hood of your patching tool, there's a 50-50 chance that it's actually Ivanti under the hood, and they just license Ivanti's technology. So that's how prolific we are out there with our patch management technology. So this one is Ivanti Neurons for patch. It is very simple, cloud native patching. Very, very easy to get up and going. One of our fastest ROI tools that we have out there, because you can be patching within, even just a couple of hours. And then next, you can see we even have our patch for MEM, so Microsoft Endpoint Manager. So for those who are not aware, Microsoft has renamed SCCM and Intune. Intune is now called Microsoft Endpoint Manager. SCCM is called Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager. And yes, Ivanti has an endpoint manager. So it's a whole mess. So old names, new names, it's all mixed up. In this case, it's called Patch for MEM, Patch for Microsoft Endpoint Manager. So we can actually put that third-party content inside of Intune. But we can also put it inside of SCCM as well. So that third-party, because they've got native Microsoft patching and so forth, but we're bringing the Chromes, the Firefox, the Javas, et cetera, into that patching ecosystem, so it makes it easier for your systems to patch. Lastly, on this slide, we've got the Ivanti Neurons for risk-based vulnerability management. This is really cool. This came from the RiskSense family of companies. When we were talking about all the different data points that we have, I drew up on the whiteboard, I said Rapid7. So Rapid7 is a vulnerability scanning tool, goes and sweeps our network and finds all these vulnerabilities. Great. Now what? It came back and it scanned and it found 50,000 findings. Okay, what do I do with 50,000? What do I do with 50,000 of anything? Unless it's rice, it's difficult to manage 50,000 of something. So we're going to run it through our risk-based vulnerability management system, and it's going to calculate, okay, I understand about your environment. I know that you're in healthcare. I understand that this has all your patient records. So these are sensitive servers. Oh, this is a test print server over here. So it's going to focus on, is there remote code execution and privilege escalation? That's usually what ransomware and things like that focus on. Is it being used today? Is it trending on the dark web that people are talking about it? So I can come back and give you a much down narrowed list. Hey, you need to start on these 14 things. They are incredibly exposed right now on your critical servers. Finish those 14 things. Okay, you fix that? Okay, next, the next outer ring, now you've got these 300 things that are the next level of severity. Maybe not as critical as the other one. Go patch that. Okay, now we're down to the 2000. It's less risk. There's no remote code execution. People aren't using out in the wild, so our risk is less on that. So it gives us a better way to focus. Now, remember, it does not replace a Rapid7. It ingests information from Rapid7, from Qualys, from Nessus, Tenable. All of those, we just scoop up that information and present it to you. So helps you get better understanding of what your posture truly looks like. All right. Lastly, but definitely not least, we have our service. So you can see up at the top here, we've got our Ivanti Neurons for ITSM. So this is our service management platform. So for those not aware, in 2017, Ivanti was created by a merger of Landesk and Heat Software. So Heat Software had been doing ITSM tools for decades. So this is that tool that came from that lineage. I mean, not necessarily years ago, but it is a very, very robust product for service management. So incident, problem, change, it's fully ITIL certified. I always kind of like to boast that it's ServiceNow at a third the cost. And we've actually done some pretty big replacements where we've taken out ServiceNow because ServiceNow is a great tool. It's just very, very expensive. So gives us the ability to do the same kind of functionality inside of our tool. We have very similar functionality. And back to Gartner, we talked about the Gartner Magic Quadrant, not just the image of that leaders quadrant, but read in the notes. Look for something called the critical capabilities. They call out that Ivanti is good at all levels of maturity, low, medium, and high. A product like ServiceNow is terrible at a low maturity customer. You're going to spend so much money, and that's going to be too complicated for us. We're the only one in the top 3 on both low, medium, and high. So you can grow with this. You can start simple, you can go to medium complexity, and then go to high complexity. All of those we're in the top 3 on, and we're the only vendor that does it that way. Next are Ivanti Neurons for, I'll throw out, I'm going to save that for a later conversation. Neurons for ITAM. So asset management is a big part of, we talked about kind of securing it. And what I define as asset management, if you're not familiar, we already talked about that. We talked about finding our stuff. Well, finding your stuff is only one part of it. Asset management is about financial information as well. Because for argument's sake, what if they never shipped it to you? What if you bought 100 laptops from Dell? We've got big supply chain problems happening right now. They take 6 months to show up. What if only 50 of them show up? Where did the other 50 go? How would I know that? How do you discover the lack of something on your network? And so really understanding it from the time of purchase. We would create those assets at time of purchase and have the financial information, when it was shipped, depreciation, have an asset request. That's really what asset management, and we feed in all of that discovery data. That's what asset management is all about. Next, we have Ivanti Neurons for HR and for facilities. These are using that service management platform. They're just extending it to different departments. We're used to an incident. My printer is broken. Well, a broken toilet is just a facilities incident. I want to change my 401k distribution. That's an HR incident, or HR actually calls it cases, just as that's the word they use. something like that. So what's great about our platform is there's no additional cost to implement these. You just have to, if you need analyst licenses, you need to pay for those, but we don't charge extra if you want to jump into HR and facilities. This is a fabulous olive branch, in my opinion, to go to those departments. Remember how I said our users aren't maybe necessarily our biggest fans in the world? Other departments are kind of the same way. So wouldn't it be great to go to HR facility and say, hey, we've got this tool. We'd love to have a single place that users can go to for self-service that gives us the ability to service our end users in one nice, convenient portfolio. So that's Ivanti Neurons for HR and facilities. And these next two, Ivanti Neurons for PPM and GRC, I actually come across from the Sharewell acquisition. So Sharewell was purchased by Ivanti last year, right? Middle of the year, something like that.
Something like that.
And they had a particularly good rendition of GRC and PPM. So we're bringing those great attributes that they had, and we're bringing it into our Neurons for ITSM platform. So it's going to enrich the platform quite a bit. So if you're anything with compliance or people are bugging you about GRC, things like that, it's definitely a good fit for it. Okay, so that was a quick run through on the technologies that we wanted to talk about. Oh, no, there was one I completely forgot about it. It is our extraction platform. So if you are not aware, extraction is a really great dashboarding and BI tool that we have. And it gives you the ability to, kind of render that information to people that don't use the tool. If I use our Ivanti Neurons for MDM, our mobile iron platform, it's going to give me great reports, right? But I use the tool. I log into the tool and I consume it on a daily basis. It's easy for me to do that. What about other people? How do they know what's going on? So extraction is a dashboarding tool. I use the word dashboard because the way I envision it is a TV hanging on the wall, and it's sitting there cycling through the reports that we print out. The reports are colorful, full of charts and graphs. It's great for people outside the tool to understand kind of what we're doing. And so extraction is a fabulous way to represent that to the outside world. Hey, here's what the tool is doing. Okay. Let's check to see if we have any questions. Looks like we have a couple questions came across, and if you have any more, just type them into the chat right here. What are the products that connect into the Neurons platform? Okay, that's a good question. So I drew up just a couple of them, just to kind of, I'll jump out of my presentation here and go talk about it really quick. Oh, whoops, it signed me out. Let me sign back in really quick. So Ivanti Neurons connectors is what we call them. We have a whole pile of them. To lots of great technologies that we have out there. So our own products as well as third-party products. So if I went and clicked on Add Connector here, you can see this is just a small list. AWS and Azure, great places that are growing, expanding. Very difficult for us to find out what's going on there, so we can connect them. Connect to CDW and pull down purchase information. Connect to Dell and get warranty information. You can see we can connect to Sharewell and Insight and our Ivanti Pulse Profiler, our Patch for MEM, all of these. Look, just keep going. We've got lots of different connectors. And if you don't see one on the list here today, there's a good chance that they're going to be potentially adding it in the future. And so those are all the connectors that we have. So great question. Hopefully that answers your question. All right, let's jump back over to this right here. What's our next one that we have on the list? How's extraction licensed? So good question. Extraction is part of the product that you're paying for today. So for example, if you own Endpoint Manager, it's not an additional license. You're entitled to extraction as part of your EPM entitlement. So all we have to do is go and install it. So if you're not using extraction today, I can show you, just if I jump over here real quick, I can kind of give you a quick rundown of what it does and why I like it. Remember, I described it as a higher level. Great for something that would be hanging on a TV. We've even got this cycle function right here. So I want you to go buy a TV and turn on some dashboards here and sit it and have it cycle through there. I talked about us not having necessarily the best reputation in the world. Let's try and fix that. Let's improve our image. Let's broadcast to the world, hey, look at how cool this is and all the stuff that we're doing. I don't expect someone to stand there in the hallway and look at the TV. They're never going to do it. What I'm doing is broadcasting. I am doing a lot of work here. You're welcome. So I'm never going to have thrilled customers or super ultra happy, but heck, this can maybe make it at least so they're not upset with us. So great question about extraction. Okay, so it looks like maybe that was all of our questions that we have. If you have any others, that's okay. You can see Shane's information right here, his contact information, phone number, and email address. Just please hit him up. And if you need to get someone like me on the line that's a subject matter expert on technology, or even more specifically around one of the products, we can get someone to help out with that as well.
For sure, and I'd like to add, this is my personal information. That's my personal cell phone number. It is for you guys. Take a screenshot, save it in your phone. I am happy to be a resource here for you. One thing I'd like to say also, all of our different customers are at different maturity levels. And Bryan, I mean, he just talked to the whole entire portfolio. I don't know very many of our engineers on the Ivanti side that can do that. And so if you have any questions for problems you're seeing in your environment or different things you're trying to solve, I'd love to hop on a call with you and talk about, even if it's not super related, like give us a chance. We'd love to add value where possible.
Yeah, for sure about that. I love to get people more value out of what they've already paid for. Hey, did you know about extraction? Did you know that we got a new import feature in EPM that does, ingesting of CVEs? Let me show you more about the tool you already own and see if we can get some extra value out of it.
And last, kind of for a call to action, I'm going to be reaching out to you guys. Feel free to reach out anytime. We want to make sure that we're more involved. I know account management has been a little bit, maybe missing with all the acquisitions, but we want to make a change with that. And so, reach out with any questions. If things aren't working, if you have questions, just, have that line of communication here.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, for attending. We appreciate you coming today, and we'll talk to you soon.